Good day. My name is Peter Bishop. I'm the director of an organization called Teach the Future, whose mission is to bring futures thinking to schools and to students around the world. I spent most of my career in the University of Houston as a professor of foresight, and having retired there, I created this organization because up till then I had been teaching adults about the future, and very happy to do so, and yet very few people, if anyone, was talking to young people about their futures. Yes, teachers would say that we're preparing you for the future, but when I asked them what they were doing specifically to prepare for students for the future they faced, they said, well, we're teaching them math and reading, we're teaching them geography and history. Well, those are nice things. I said, do you ever tell them about the future? Well, no, I don't know anything about the future. And therein lies the problem. It's really important that we include futures thinking in the regular school curriculum so that students know how to anticipate change when it comes to them, and even more importantly, how they can influence change as they're going forward. It was meaningful for me to work in the futures degree at the University of Houston. It was the first degree in future studies in the world and is now joined by half a dozen or a dozen other programs around the world. I'm happy to be able to learn to teach this to younger people as it's going along. But it's very hard, and we haven't made too much progress yet, and I'll share those in a second. We're still at very early stages. Those stages include my teaching a course in the future of Houston right after I retired, in building a library of teaching materials that teachers can use to teach the future, writing and adopting a few books, essentially workbooks on helping middle and high school students work towards getting scenarios. And I'm fortunate to be joined by a group of very dedicated and very interested and talented people who are building this organization and building this movement all the way along. On the other hand, education, as we know, is not an organization that is particularly ready to change. Most people believe that education's mission, its purpose in life, is to transmit the knowledge and the experience of previous generations to the new generation. In sociology, it's called socialization, to make young people socialized in order to teach them both the knowledge and the culture that they're getting ready to join as adults. And that's an important mission. I certainly don't discount that. But that mission is valuable only to the extent that the knowledge of the past and the experience of the past is transferable to the future. To the extent that the past is like the future, or the future is like the past, of course, that's very valuable, and it is to some extent. On the other hand, we know we are living in times in which the increasing rate of change and the increasing frequency of disruptions makes that analogy not quite perfect. Learning about how people coped with and were successful in the past is not unimportant, but it's not enough. We also need to be teaching students how to deal with a different world, a world in which their parents and their grandparents do not know about, a world in which the public school educators that created the current system did not know about. And fundamentally, the big change, of course, in our lifetime, in our recent life, is the appearance of digital communication and information to the point that it is having consequences throughout the world, including education. Information used to be valuable. People graduated with lots of knowledge. What they knew, they carried around in their heads and used to be successful in the world. That was the world that I grew up in. But knowledge and information today is now a commodity. In other words, it's everywhere, it's easily accessible, and it's almost free. One is not going to get a much competitive advantage, therefore, by learning lots of facts, of memorizing lots of theories. We can get that on our phones or on our computers or through the media. What we don't know how to do, and what we're not teaching, unfortunately, is what to do with that information, which is a skill that needs to be taught in school as an explicit learning objective. I had a conversation with the history department last year, in which I said, well, learning all those historical facts is nice and it's maybe important, and I'm a great fan of history myself. What do you teach students to do with that? How is that knowledge going to change their personal lives, their family life, their work as employees or entrepreneurs, or even as citizens? How to use history, not just to know history. So our purpose in Teach the Future is part of a larger movement, a movement to introduce skills as the most important learning objective in schools, not information. You have to know things. We're not saying not teach the facts. On the other hand, we're more interested in teaching what to do with those facts than simply memorizing the facts to start with. Let's take sports as an example. Students, usually those interested in sports, enjoy their sports a lot more than their academic subjects. Did you ever ask why? Well, first of all, they're learning skills. They're practicing, they're getting better. They're competing with others and showing how good they can be. And they know some things. In a sport, there are rules. There are things you're allowed to do and things you're not allowed to do. There are plays that they have to memorize. But most of it is the skill of doing the sport, not simply memorizing those rules and those plays and giving them back on a test. So shifting from content to skills, not 100%, but where the emphasis is on what to do with knowledge, not just to. And we believe that futures knowledge, future skills, is as key to this as anyone else. In fact, learning about futures thinking is almost better than learning about historical thinking or scientific thinking. It's easier to teach because there's no text, there's no facts. It's all about research, investigation, curiosity, critical thinking, creative thinking, empowerment, creating change. If we were teaching that in the schools, I believe we would have students who are not only more engaged in their learning, because skills are a lot more fun to learn than facts, but they would also have something that they can carry into the rest of their life. I have a family anecdote that I'd like to share with you. Our younger daughter went to a high school in Houston that was dedicated to the performing arts. Half the day, she was in the theater program. She was learning the skills of being an actor, learning the skills of stage management. Did she ever use those in the theater industry? I can tell you that she did not. Never was in a play after that. Never entered that as an occupation. But she carried away skills of presentation and diction, which contributed her to being a great teacher and a great facilitator and presenter. And even more importantly, she learned about professional responsibility, about being part of a team, about doing your part, that others depended on you to be good as you depended on them to be good. And those are life skills that everyone can use, no matter what occupation you go into. Teach the Future is an outgrowth of a growing Foresight community among adults. There are hundreds of courses and seminars and keynote speeches about the future every single year. When are we going to allow young people to be part of this conversation? When are we going to say, we know how to teach about the future today, let's start teaching it in high school and in college? That's our mission at Teach the Future, and I've enjoyed the opportunity to share that with you. I hope you join us and become advocates or even teachers for teaching the future in your schools.